Well, I've got 13:03 on my clock, and our commitment is to at least have the majority of what we set out to talk about done at 13:45 Central Time, so 1:45, and I want to invite the audience to ask questions, so we may still be in some Q&A. But thank you everyone for attending. We have people literally from all over the world on the call, and we appreciate you taking the time. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We do have a moderator to help get those over to us, and we'll get to them as we can. And as mentioned, we're going to try to be done by 1:45 Central Time. If we've got more questions, hopefully we can convince Tony and Medea to stay with us. So some quick introductions. I'm Brian Court. I'll be the MC for the next 45 minutes. I'm with DHD. We're a value-added reseller. And we have partnered with Foresite Cybersecurity to package their cybersecurity services for our customers when they're purchasing security products such as Palo Alto and Fortinet, the firewalls, MDR solutions, and whatnot. So with that being said, I'm going to kick it over to Medea from Foresite.
Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate you having us today. And again, I'm Medea Landry with Foresite Cybersecurity.
Yeah. I want to introduce one of the founders of Horizon3, Tony Pillitiere. Tony, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself here?
How you doing? Really great. Glad to be here. Glad to be partnering with you, Brian, and Medea and the teams to help change the way that people look at cybersecurity. Looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I want to call out and thank you for your service. And I know Horizon3 has many people who've served to protect freedom and security, right? At the end of the day, service is about security. So,
yep. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. No, you got it. So let's get started. What probably amounts to the biggest technology event of the year. It happens to be a cybersecurity company, but not necessarily a cybersecurity event. And of course, that was the Crowdstrike debacle. So, Medea, if you don't mind, what happened? And you guys are a Crowdstrike as a service provider, actually. And tell us what happened, right? How did you remediate? How did it go? And we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, thanks, Brian. And the Crowdstrike outage was a major event, and as you mentioned, it was not a cyber attack, but an update, right? That caused significant disruption to customers of all sizes and industries, from small to medium-sized businesses, educational institutions, healthcare, finance, to very large enterprises, as we've seen all over the news, right? And we are a Crowdstrike as a service provider. So we were on the front line. And I'll take you through a little of the actions that we took, that we take on an ongoing basis as a managed security service provider. We monitor our customers' network 7/24/365. When this happened, we identified the issue in real time. We worked directly with Crowdstrike on steps required to get our customers up and running, conducted an impact assessment on our install base. We communicated the situation and outlined the steps to resolution, all in a matter of hours. In situations like this, communication and visibility are key. We opened up multiple communication channels for our customers and our partners, and provided visibility into the action that our SOC analysts were taking. And this all happens through a single portal. The portal that our analysts work on is the same portal that our customers see. So it is all real time and key to identifying and resolving situations like this. Having a good cybersecurity partner and program is essential for every organization. We've talked about already. And the feedback that I hear from our clients consistently is that we provide real value as an extension of their organization. And in this situation, the situation reinforced why companies choose Foresite, and they renew with us year over year.
Yeah. Yeah. A little plug and, you know, a factor in why we partnered with Foresite is you guys have documented customer satisfaction. I think 96% or, you know, whatnot. So
We're very proud of that. So thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations. And, you know, it's funny when I first kind of brought this up, we didn't know what had it really, you know, we were talking about this fireside chat, you know, 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. And, this hadn't happened. Of course, I knew you were on the front lines. You were a little reserved, like, man, I'm up to here right now with this, you know, but I do appreciate you taking the time. And I think the thing to note, you know, something like this could have happened to any label at any time, right? And I was reminded of what happened in the SolarWinds breach, right? Where there's lessons to be learned. And I think something like this, people are settling in, they realize what happened, but what are there specific takeaways that may be hidden in this incident for IT managers from your perspective?
Yes. And cybersecurity is a journey, right? It is an evolving practice path for all of our customers. And we recommend having a strong and resilient MDR strategy, which we can help them with, you know, coupled with a trusted MSSP or SOC partner, such as Foresite, that has a proven track record and provides the visibility and transparency that gets to know you as a company, right? They get to know your team, they get to know you by name, and they understand what your business is all about, because it's not one size fits all. You know, aligning to a recognized framework, which we can help people with this. We can help people with that as well. You know, and investing in regular testing of networks. You know, consider autonomous testing, which we're here to discuss today.
Yeah. Yes. So, Tony, you know, Horizon3 is not related to the MDR, but you are in security. I wanted to give you the opportunity. Your takeaway from the CrowdStrike, again, you're the first one to mention, hey, it wasn't a cyber company, but not a cyber attack, right? But still impacts the security departments, right? The security engineers. So your thoughts as you process what happened?
Yeah, from my perspective, you hit it on the nose in that a lot of organizations they have a lot of a single vendor on a particular thing. And I'm not just talking about across like the IT side, it could be anything. And when you lock yourself in like that, one change could spread across the environment and cause problems. And one of the key components of cybersecurity, if we go back to the fundamentals of cybersecurity, there is a triad. It is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And availability is that overlap between the cybersecurity side and the IT operations side. And it is that linkage between the two. And if you look at site reliability engineering, back in 2003, Google put together, created this role that is site reliability engineering, and their entire job is to understand what happens when something breaks in production, so that they know what breaks, how it breaks, and then how do we fix it, and how do we build our architectures so that a single threaded thing doesn't interrupt our operation or our business stream or our revenue stream. In this case, a lot of organizations had a single vendor, and that one thing shut down everything. I think about AWS. When US East 2 goes down, that's happened, 3 or 4 times over the last 3 or 4 years, where US East 2 goes down and a lot of practitioners are like, sweet, we're going home for the day. It's going to take them a minute to bring that back up. We're going home. It causes a heavy burden, and bring that back to security. A lot of that change, a lot of those shifts cause chaos. That chaos opens doors for threat actors to take advantage of that, and hide in the noise of all crazy logs going on, because it's not something that you've seen before. This is a whole new whole new set of telemetry that's coming from your systems. It's yeah, while it wasn't a cybersecurity incident specifically, there is that overlap between, on the availability side that is important for folks to take into account as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. You actually, the first thing I think of as you're saying that, right, is I think some of the challenges that organizations have is, of course, the expertise, the cybersecurity expertise, and so not only do they have a shortage of the tools they already have, but this incident shows us you may need to layer on, right, for the availability triad, you may need to layer on an expertise in a Cortex or a Sentinel-1 or right. And so it's actually a good segue, because initially what this, before the CrowdStrike, what we were going to have a fireside chat just really on cybersecurity trends and whatnot. And so Medea, I'll kick it back to you. You guys, as an MSSP, you have a unique perspective because you're supporting lots and lots of customers of different sizes and different industries and different frameworks and different, right? And in some ways, it might be music to your ears. What Tony's saying, the takeaway from this is, hey, I know it's tough, but you got to overlay, your solutions here to ensure that you're not relying on one pathway. How do companies do that? From an MSSP perspective, I guess, what do you see out there with your customers that they may need help with, or they may be lacking in, or?
Sure. So the first thing I would say is, like, take advantage of the resources that are on this call, right? The three organizations here are pretty powerful when it comes to providing, assistance to customers. But from an MSSP perspective, we have customers that can leverage us where they need us, when they need us. Cybersecurity expertise, a lot of our customers don't have large teams, or they have teams and they need to make changes, so they need additional teams at a point in time, and we can act as an extension of a customer's, internal team. They might not have the tools to do 7x24 monitoring and threat detection in real time. Most of our customers know about compliance and regulations, but they change, and they need further and ongoing support. We help clients navigate and comply with regulatory requirements.
Yeah, what's interesting there is, this thing about, from a business standpoint, IT operations and security, those are all things that enable the business to do what they do. Yeah. And we could talk about this later, but like this balance between risk and the bottom line of a business is to drive their business forward, is to grow their business. Right. And I remember being in the military and thinking about, like, nobody cares about IT until it doesn't work. Right? So we in the industry, from both cybersecurity and IT operations, we are always looked at as like an enabling function, but never the enabled, right? The salespeople are the enabled, the marketing people are the enabled. The IT operations is that nervous center that some people sometimes forget. And if it's only when it doesn't work does that become something that is important to us. And what's interesting is a lot of organizations, they have very small IT operations teams. Sometimes they don't even have security teams. They've either outsourced it, which is I'm not saying that's bad at all. That is absolutely a strategy that can be implemented, is outsourcing your IT operations, because that allows you to, one, transfer some of that risk and get that off of your books and the way that you run your business, so that you can focus on the things that matter to you. It's totally a strategy that happens. Having the right partners and having the right tools and having the right inputs that you can trust from those partners is really, really important to think about as you're searching for the right partner or the right tools and capabilities, because you don't have unlimited resources to spend on an enabling function. You need to you got to shift your resources towards the things that enable your business to grow forward. And that's not always IT operations or security.
Yeah. You bring up one thing I want to highlight is I've, been in this world and is outsourcing your security to an MSP is not the same as outsourcing security to an MSSP. And the law is going to determine that, because we've got some lawsuits going on now where companies saying we got breached, it's the MSP's fault, and the MSP saying no, we're just hand holding or whatnot. So I do want to, Tony, you bring up a good point. I think really what it comes down to, and one of the things, Medea, I think you and I had discussed about, is what is the plan? What is your organization's cybersecurity plan? Right. And I think one of the things I appreciate about what Foresite starts with is, do we have a plan? Because tools fit inside a plan. Decision making needs to fit inside a strategy. And so, what's your experience with customers with their cybersecurity plan?
Are you asking me, Brian?
Yeah.
So we see some have a plan, some don't have a plan. Some have something that's sitting on a shelf that they take out and dust off. So it's in varying degrees, but it's an ongoing, right? It's not a point in time. So keeping, a security plan up to date, testing it, right? Doing tabletop exercises and making sure that, if something does happen, or like you and I spoke to, not if, when, right? When something does happen and you put that plan into place, it works. And the right people are contacted, and time is of the essence when that happens. When something does happen, it's not the time to pull out the plan and see if it works.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And we can talk more about it when kind of targeting the questions towards me, but the idea that your security plan, what is Mike Tyson's thing? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right.
Right.
That plan has to be tested. Otherwise, you're just like you said, you're pulling this thing and blowing the dust off of this book, and you don't even know if the things in there are actually going to do what they're supposed to. On top of that, having the tools and the technologies and the processes in place that have been assessed on whether or not they're going to do what they're supposed to.
Right.
Which is where, like, our philosophy and this offense-driven approach to your security is super, super important, because it's continuously testing and assessing from the attacker's perspective, so that you're really focusing.
You're getting in front of my notes, Tony. But you bring
So
up
sorry.
You bring up a good point. It's funny. I'm in Austin, and I was at dinner the other night with a patent attorney and another guy in the medical field, and he said, "You don't have a patent until it's gone to court, no matter what your patent says," right? And it's the same. I've never thought about it that way, and that's really what you're saying about your, yes, you got a plan on paper, but how do we know? How do we know? So good point.
Test it regularly.
Yeah. So Tony, I led with CrowdStrike being the kind of the technology event of the year. In the past 30 days, I've gotten data breach notifications from Ticketmaster, one of my healthcare providers. And as you know, last week it was leaked out, 2.9 billion data records have been stolen from the company National Public Data. So that's National Public Data, US based, 2.9 billion. There's 300 million people here. That's probably all of us.
It's everybody. It's everybody.
I'm reading about the breach in the New York Times, and it's got a link in the article to learn if my data was stolen. And it was not lost on me that I wasn't sure if I could actually click on the link. So, and this is the world we're in now, right? Clicking a link to learn if my data was stolen, only to have my data stolen, right? And so not even sure what to ask. except, you know, in our conversations that we've had leading up to the webinar, I know that you get it. Horizon 3 is building tools to help companies get in front of these attacks. And one of your huge mantras, which you just mentioned, is offense is the best defense, which in my experience is not the way most cybersecurity engineers are trained. You're just trained to, you know, you're going out there doing this. You're not doing that, right? And so talk to us about that. How do you help companies transition from this I'm just reacting posture to, wait, I'm on offense? I might be in front of this.
Yeah, the key component there is understanding your environment the way an attacker is going to see it, right? And if you think about the evolution of cybersecurity, it started with these people like Captain Crunch, who was trying to gain value from using systems in ways that they weren't intended to be used, or ways that the developer or the engineer who created that system or process or whatever never thought about thinking about it that way. And that spawned this, like, people going out and getting value where they weren't supposed to be getting value, using phone phreakers and, you know, those kinds of things. And it's evolved to where we have these systems, like take your vulnerability scanners, for instance. You have a vulnerability scanner, and that is kind of the way that we have for the last 40 some odd years assessed our risk and prioritized how we mitigate problems within our environments. That's just the way it has been. And we offset that with some, you know, with some pen testing now, but we've narrowed their scope super small. And this vulnerability assessment gives you this CVSS score and it tells you what, like, the likelihood of this being exploited is. And that's no longer good enough. Now, if you think about, if you take the national public data, I have yet to see the attack vector. I've yet to see where that attack vector was. However, I can imagine small organization, very low security team, or, you know, small security team and an IT operations team. It was likely some sprawl. They've got a big environment. They got lots of data. There was something that got missed. It may not have been a CVE. It may have been a misconfiguration. It may have been some default credential and some new system that they put in. There's nothing in the security stack right now that assesses your entire environment. We rely on the tools and we rely on the people to install the tools and these agents, and everybody hates agents, but we got to, in some cases, just got to have them. MDRs, EDRs, they just got to have those agents. But are those agents configured appropriately? Are your tools, are your telemetry sending out the data that they're supposed to be sending out? And we don't know that until we send an attacker at it. And the best way to do it right now, or, you know, previous to Horizon 3 and this offense-driven philosophy that has now been codified and we've created a system that can do it, we've been using offensive security experts. And there ain't a whole lot of them. And they cost a lot of money. And we do them once a year. So there's all these limitations in how we've been overcoming this understanding of likelihood inside of our environment and impact inside of our environment, that we don't have a really good sense of what is the likelihood or the impact of a particular weakness inside of our, you know, within the context of our environments. And if you boil it all the way down, go back to your CISSP days and your Sec Plus days and, you know, the fundamentals of cybersecurity, risk is likelihood times impact. Well, if you're using vulnerability scanners, you're not getting real likelihood because you're not doing the exploitation on it in the context of your environment. If you're not doing the exploitation, you're not getting an understanding of what can that lead to? What can an attacker actually get out of that? Which means you're not understanding impact. You're theoretically guessing. You're doing your tabletop exercises, which is still good, and you still want to do those. But having a more deterministic understanding of your risk versus a probabilistic understanding of your risk is by far the best way to go. We've been doing that with pen testers, but we narrow their scope onto our crown jewels.
Right.
I hate that term. I hate the crown jewels term, because what that says is you're focusing this offensive capability and the power of offensive security at a brick wall, this thing that you've wrapped all of these tools and all of these security components around, and it is unlikely that an attacker is going to be able to go directly at it. So you're running a bunch of pen testers at a brick wall, and they're going to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't get in there.
Yeah.
You're secure based on this.
Yeah.
But what they're
your
saying,
best built fortress is good.
what they're really telling you is, I need to look at the entire environment the same way an attacker would, and I'm willing to bet that I can go find a low or a medium weakness over here. I can find credentials over here. I can do some phishing, and I can get a sense of get a credential and land inside and start from this point of view, from this perspective. And attackers don't have they don't care about rules of engagement. Attackers don't care about, when I say attackers, about threat actors. They don't care about your rules of engagement. They don't care about your scope. They're trying to extract and exploit value out of your organization so that they can meet whatever their objective is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So let me ask you this,
ahead,
Tony, just as and Medea, I'll give you a shot too. Customers are saying what when they implement the tool?
I'll let Medea go first.
Sure. Our customers are delighted is not a strong enough word, right? We demo this for a lot of CISOs across the US. And when we first partnered with Horizon3 and we started offering the service, we were presenting it to a fairly large financial institution. And they were looking at manual pen testing. And we brought in the automated, Horizon3 Node Zero tool. And in the middle of the presentation, the CISO stopped and said, Medea, what is this? Have not seen this in the industry, didn't know it was available, and literally stopped the meeting. It is that powerful, and our customers are delighted. As we talked about earlier, Brian, is we offered the tool, we set it up for people, right? We also provide those quarterly reviews with our security experts, right? How you're using it. What did you find? Let's look at the results together and let's put a plan in place for the next quarter. And we did win the business, by the way. So our customers are delighted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell a quick story. Went into an organization, ran a POV, proof of value, where they were running the tool. And results came back that they were vulnerable to zero logon. 6 of their 10 domain controllers were vulnerable to zero logon. Proved that we could have zero logon, for those in the audience who aren't tracking, really bad Active Directory domain controller exploit that gives full domain admin, like 2 commands, it's done, super fast. Microsoft put out a patch right after it got released back in 2020, and this organization had a CISO, they had a separate IT ops team and a security team. They had all the whiz-bang tools, automated patch management, EDR, SIEM, like all the things. Ran it when the patch came out, they put it in their automated patch management, did their thing, ran a vulnerability scan afterwards, and then everything was good. 18 months later is when we're doing this POV, and we proved to them that they were vulnerable, exploitable, key term there, exploitable. It's not about vulnerability, it's about exploitability. And what can that lead to so that you can really understand your risk? And the CISO is like, Tony, you told me you guys don't do false positives and you're eliminating the noise for me. This is a false positive. I patched that. And I showed him, I said, well, no, here's the proof, because as part of the product, we provide the proof, the path, and the impact so that you understand where you're really weak and where you should be focusing your resources, because this is what an attacker is going to take advantage of today. And he goes, oh, yeah, I see that. So he went back to his team and they dug in, and here's what they found. They ran the automated patch management. It ran on 6 of the 10 domain controllers, but they had an antivirus software on the domain controllers that blocked it from actually running the functionality that made it not vulnerable. But here's the kicker. It updated the registry, it updated the patch level, it masked all of the signatures that a vulnerability scanner is going to use from an external perspective to determine whether or not something is vulnerable to a weakness or not. And he goes, oh my God, this is amazing. He came back to me. He goes, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've been doing Patch Tuesday for, this is the quote, I've been doing Patch Tuesday for 20 some years. You guys just invented Pen Test Wednesday. And I was like, oh my God, I'm writing that down. That is so
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm writing it down too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
So
it.
this notion of your vulnerability scanners and the way that we are assessing our weaknesses, I use weaknesses very, very specifically because CVEs are it's encompassed as, you know, one component of a weakness. They're based on signatures. They're based on a guess and a theoretical understanding of what that likelihood is. And until you're sending an attacker at those defenses and at those weaknesses, you don't really know if you're vulnerable. For 18 months, these guys were vulnerable and they had no idea.
Right. And it can be run at any time, Tony, right? I mean, if
Absolutely.
someone does an upgrade to their environment or something changes in their environment, they're going to be they're going to be merging or acquiring a new company, right?
We have organizations, yeah, we have organizations that use the API to when they do a new push to production, they're making change to the architecture, it automatically kicks off, you know, the next one. And Foresite does all those things and supports them with all of that, and it's a really good partnership. I don't think we actually let me step back because I don't think we actually introduced what it is that we do. We are Horizon3. We do autonomous pen testing, and we're shifting the way that organizations look at cybersecurity. We're flipping things upside down by taking the offensive perspective and the offensive understanding, the power of offensive security, and we've made it accessible to all organizations. A lot of times people don't have the money, they don't have the funds to hire an offensive security team in-house, so they outsource it to pen test firms, but then they scope them very small because it's expensive and it takes a long time and they're not sure about, you know, the risk around it. So they get some value out of it most of the time to check boxes, but they're not looking at the entire environment. What we've done with Node Zero, our product, is and they've Foresite has built all of this into their platform. We have enabled organizations to leverage the power of offensive security to understand what can an attacker take advantage of today? What are my blind spots? Not from a gigantic NVD list of 265,000 CVEs that in most cases are useless to an attacker, but what is the 2.4%? Based on research, only 2.4% are really valuable to an attacker, and even lower, which ones are going to be SysAkevs, known exploitable vulnerabilities that are out in the wild that you really need to pay attention to. And how do you continuously assess your environment? We want your numbers to be all zeros. I don't want to find anything in your environment. That is usually not the case. But if we find 0 today, what about tomorrow? What about the next day? What about the day after that? What about when a new emerging threat comes out?
Right.
What about when you change something in your environment or tactics in the threat landscape change? How do you assess that on a more regular basis? And that's what Node Zero does, and that's what Horizon3 does. Yeah.
Love that. I mean, I have several thoughts. One is I think of pen testing and vulnerability as this 1.0, right? And now we've got a 2.0 that, so, you know, of course, a lot of companies have big security needs, but not big security budget. And so a product like this, though, is you're already invested in the pen testing. So, hey, can the, you know, Horizon3 product combined with the scope and service and walkthrough with Foresite, you know, yield out a net better result with same cost or no cost impact to budget, right? The other thing I wanted to bring up too, because obviously this is driven a lot by the power of AI, right? So, you know, pen testing is similar to, you know, VPN in the mid 2000s. It's like even that world has changed, right? So we've got the 2.0s. It's like if I could build a product now with all the GPU and all the power and all the, right, this is the way that I would do it. And so, but I liked what you had to say, Tony, when we were talking about this is, you know, AI is just this huge buzzword. I think a lot of people on the call are getting pressure about what are they doing with the AI? How are they implementing it? You know, and you're, you had something you said about, you know, never focus on AI. This is what you said. Never focus on AI. Focus on outcomes. And if AI helps you get to the outcome, it's the right thing. And I love that. And so, you know, AI in this respect, it's layered in. We're using AI in the, but everybody on this call who's running a network, they've got AI all through their stack now, with the marketing person using open, you know, and then, you know, customer service using it. And like, people don't know what it means. They're throwing it in. And so open, that's the framework. Tony, go.
Yeah. So if you think through like this new explosion of this new evolution and revolution of AI that has come out since, you know, the original paper that came out was attention is all you need, and that's what created large language models. That paper, it's a really cool read. Some of the math I did not follow, but what it really boils down to is you have this functionality, this recurrent neural network that can predict the next set of characters. That's what LLMs are. And they've done so much work and they've trained it on so much data, and there's so many cool things that are coming out with it that people are just kind of like gold rushing to it. I was on Discord for, I can't remember what service it was. I think it was like LangChain, or I can't remember. But as I was watching some of the conversations that were happening, and there were so many people in there wanting to get in on this gold rush of creating systems wrapped in generative AI. And they were asking really, really bad questions. Like, you should not be writing software and selling this application because you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But they were developing these systems, putting them out as either open source projects, or they were getting ready to create a company around them. And if you look, check out futuretools.ai. This guy does a great rundown. He's got all the, like, a bunch of timelines about all the things that are happening within the AI space, specifically around generative AI. Matt Wolf is his name. Super good dude, really cool channel. Check him out. But the thing that really caught my attention and made me super nervous, and my team as well, was the amount of people who are trying to jump in on this without really having a security understanding. They're building all of these tools and capabilities to take advantage of large language models, and their security practices are really, really, really bad. I love me some data scientists, but I'm going to say some things that might be a little bit controversial. Data scientists can write code. They can do some really cool stuff, but they do not know how to write really good code, really secure code. And no, that's not everybody. Yes, I get it. There's all kinds of outliers and edge cases. I'm sure we're going to get punched in the face for that on the LinkedIns and the social medias. It's a good thing I don't really pay attention to this stuff. But we have found a lot of the tools, a lot of the underlying libraries that these organizations are using, the code is not very good. And it's getting hidden in all of this capability on it's like, oh man, there's so much power in this. I want to use it inside my environment. I want to use it to get value out of it. Attackers love that. Attackers are going to get in up underneath there, and they're going to start leveraging all of these weaknesses that we don't even know about right now because it is happening too fast. Attackers love chaos because we can hide in the noise and we can find all kinds of things underneath there. So when we talk about like the AI landscape and using AI, yes, Node Zero leverages AI. We do not leverage large language models. No, it doesn't. We don't really see a need for that just yet. There's some things that we're talking about, some ways that we could leverage that, but security is a significant thing for us. We're a cybersecurity company. if we get breached, that's a big deal, right? But so we're looking at ways to implement that to keep our customers safe, ourselves safe, and all of that. It's more about this evolution is going to raise the risk level. And as people start to adopt all of these things, they have to start looking at the infrastructure that these systems and services are running on, their supply chain, what are their security postures and how are they working? And as they're developing things on the inside, how are they assessing themselves to understand, are we developing this code and using the right libraries that we're protecting their customers as well? So when we talk about AI, that's where my mind goes, and it's super scary. You want to use Node Zero, you want to use Foresight to understand your entire environment, your AI stack. How is it being leveraged? And are there weaknesses that we are currently blind to because it's moving so fast and we're implementing so fast?
Yeah. No, thank you. I want to be respectful of the time. And I want to let people know, we can stick around, but we've got a couple minutes. If you're interested, we're offering a proof of concept with Foresite and Horizon3. And it's if this is something that you want to trial, just reach out to your DHD account manager, and we would be happy to facilitate. And we appreciate everybody jumping on the call. And is there any? I'll give it to the two of you if there's any last things you'd like to say to the audience.
There's one thing, Brian. It's that time of year, right? It's the time of year that everybody wants to get their pen testing done. Right after Labor Day, we get hundreds of calls. So I think it's great that we're offering a proof of value. Give us a try. If you're thinking and considering a pen test before the end of the year, let's get together and talk about what you're trying to achieve, and do a proof of value.
I do have a question. I would love to have everybody put in the chat if they were affected by the CrowdStrike thing. I wanted to ask that earlier on. I just wanted, if people are still here, I would really love to just do a 1 in the chat if you were affected by the CrowdStrike thing. I'd be super interested to hear about that.
Tony, I don't know if you can see, we did get a question in the chat.
Yeah, the exploitability.
Yep.
Yeah, the question is, how is the exploitability of third-party libraries demonstrated through pen testing? Think about how an exploit is created. A reverse engineer is going to dig into the code from a lot of these underlying libraries. They're going to try and find ways that it can be leveraged. And then how do we use that, and what systems and services might that be used in? So from a pen testing standpoint, specifically from the way that Node Zero operates, we have found the way that our system operates, it leverages a graph versus like signature based. So we get a sense of the potential. This system has these services on it, has this kind of relationship in the graph, and therefore the system may find a CVE for that is, most CVEs are for one particular system, like the SolarWinds. This particular version has this particular weakness as a part of it. That's what the CVE kind of outlines. Our system has, in some cases, been able to say, well, I found this CVE on another system that has the same shape and the same graph representation, and we've been able to exploit it. It kind of goes, think of it like you put 100 monkeys in a room for long enough, they're going to write Macbeth. Same kind of thing. Some of these CVEs and weaknesses may have the same shape because other developers may have created another system that uses the same type of libraries and the same type of configuration that meets that enables that particular attack path. So think of it that way. I hope that answers the question. If it didn't, hit me up on LinkedIn and we'll have a conversation. Yeah, I see where you're going. We can talk more about it.
Yeah. We'll leave it open a little bit longer, and appreciate everybody jumping on, and we're happy to continue the conversation. So.
Yes, absolutely. Daniel Silverman, hit me up on LinkedIn and I will absolutely talk you through how that works.
Question about decryptors.
What about decryptors? White Rabbit combined with Ransom Hub. Any news on this? Not tracking that one. Yeah, we'll have to dig in on that one and answer that one offline.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Tony, thanks for taking the time. Medea, same.
You bet.
I want to thank Ellie and Alexa, who are behind the scenes and put this whole thing. It doesn't run without their expertise on the logistics here. So thank you guys. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks for having me.
A great
See you
rest of
guys.
the day.
Talk
Yeah.
to you soon.